out and we got on our bicycles. We strapped on some guitars and some basses and some stuff, and we biked it from Harrisonburg. I would say that whether it is just the spectacle of us or the pure idiocy of what we're doing, people tend to be extremely generous and hospitable, and that's been so inspiring in a time where we're all divided on so many things, and it's so easy to just distrust any stranger that you see. We've had these experiences that sort of remind us that not every stranger is out to get you. Putting yourself out there and kind of being vulnerable to things, like you don't know what's going to happen that day. So many things can go wrong, and yet there's something really liberating about that vulnerability, that when you're open to it, you know, these happy accidents do happen, and we're constantly reminded, like I said before, of the generosity of people, and that's a great shot in the arm for the rest of our year. You can kind of remember to that time or look forward to the next one, and it keeps us, for us, kind of an annual way of really remembering that, and that's important to us. Right there's a unicorn, and that was very surprising. Focus and concentration. We did ride 60 miles, I mentioned that, right? Because you start to see things in a different way.
Rare you tried this riding band.
But I applaud the sort of dedication, not that you didn't look over. Anyway, wow. So, nothing, man. Yeah, you didn't see anything, did you? Made us feel totally nuts. Yeah, this is Brian Dickel over here on the bass, by the way. He's been putting together his bass, if you haven't noticed. It takes him a little bit to tune it up, but he's got a travel bass, which is also made it a little easier to put on a bike, which he might show you in a second, has like kind of a little trap door in the back, so the neck folds down inside, and the whole package is still the size of a bass body, but it's shorter and it travels a little easier, and so he puts that on a trailer and he rides. And today he rode over Afton Mountain, led us up the way, and it's nice because realistically Brian's the best cyclist in the band, and so he needs a bit of a handicap. At this point, until we add like 2 drummers or something, we have space in the van to carry our bikes, and that's been important to us. So on the road, it's not necessarily like formal training, like, hey Jay, you haven't trained in 3 days, you better get out there. But it's also a way that we can kind of keep some sanity on the road, and when we have a little time, you know, it's another way to see all the parts of the country that we do tour in. So we have rides in Massachusetts and rides in Texas and rides in Colorado, and when we're there, we try to get a hold of local folks as well and say, hey, do you know any good routes? And oftentimes we meet somebody. So we do that. As a bonding thing for the band, it's extremely great because you pull together. You know, you could tell that night when Jay is totally dead over here on the mandolin, and you're like, all right, we gotta pick him up. Or I'm talking on the microphone in between songs, I'm not making any sense, and they're like, all right, we gotta pick Trent up a little bit. But the longest we've probably gone is about 80 miles or so, and played. We had 1 day off of shows. Like we did 11 days of riding, 10 shows last year, and the one night we didn't have a show, we rode 100 miles. 108 miles, he reminds me, because those last 8 are important when you ride that far. So when you've got the loads that we have, that was the first time I'd ever ridden over 100 miles. And it's a nice way to break it in. But yeah, it was surreal at the end of the day. We were so glad we didn't have a show. I mean, that was important that we didn't schedule a show that night, or it would have been like some real avant-garde beat poetry or something. So, yeah. bike probably harder than we did today. I'm sorry you don't get the same acknowledgement, but thank you so much for riding your bike.